Hi, I'm Theo, and today I will show you how I built my first homebrew world, using source books, websites and tools to create a world that is fitting for my table. And maybe there are one or two things you can apply for your campaign as well. Before we start, I apologize for my English. The German accent is thick in this one. Also, I do understand that I am still a beginner in writing and creating, so I appreciate additional tips and tricks in the comments a lot. All I know about world building I learned through the many D&D Youtubers out there, who I can't thank enough for, saving me hours searching through Reddit and other websites. So without further ado, let's begin. With this campaign, we didn't start at zero. We played the first Curse of Strahd campaign to get me into DMing. We started to love the existing characters so much that we decided to continue with these characters and their background stories. We had a session 0 again after this campaign where we discussed our hopes as players and DM. We were all on the same page that we wanted a campaign that focuses on storytelling, political feuds, wars between lands and even planes, but mainly building on the background stories of each player's character. Then I asked them what they feel comfortable with and what they don't want. For this I used Consent in Gaming by Shanna Reynolds and Shanna Germain, which I can only recommend you to check out, as well as the Session 0 guide checklist by Bob Worldbuilder, which you can get for free as well on his Patreon. I put the link to his YouTube video for Session 0 down below. I noted everything they wanted and then I started creating. The main theme in this campaign is discovering what really happened between the fight between the gods and the 9 hells, the change and the promises made with the Echo, the first plane of existence, which is normally known as the Feywild, and what the 9 Philosians and the new stars in the sky have to do with it. Next to it, we want to learn what one of the characters' mother has to do with the Underdark, why the Aasimar was born fallen, what the Warlock's patron has to do with the recent demon attacks on temples, and what secrets lie behind the cursed arm of our sorceress who opened her eyes in the middle of nowhere with no trace of memory. Also, we want our blood hunter to get sober, and much more. We quickly noticed that it's a lot to go through, and even more to create from scratch. Every DM is different, and some really do build everything from the ground up, which I find crazy. But here's a quick rundown on which source I use for which section in our home game. First of all, the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. This book by Mercer I use as a framework for this world. It's perfect for settings with heavy political and war themes, since I have the Open Lords Empire and the Ikemor dynasty as political opponents. I really got to use this book as help on how to build up the creeping tension of 2 parts of the land of the Fate Realms. The way the cities and the orders of position of power are built are quite amazing, so also knowing that only one other player watched Critical Role, I can rather heavily rely on this book, with sometimes just changing up names. All in all, I really heavily use this book and I can only recommend it. Mordenkaines' Tome of Foes is a great book for writing and understanding history on how hatred between species, classes and planes came to be. With an Aasimar and a Tiefling in the campaign who play with the strands between gods and demons. This book helped me writing and breaking the classic rules of the trope demon is bad and gods are good, but also has great ideas to emphasize the origins of hell, heaven and the material plane. Of course I'm mixing that up with the Feywild, which sadly doesn't have a book yet, but it really helped me to get the basics on what I can work with. The Swordcoast Adventures Guide. I use this book a lot and I still use it quite often. It is one of the slimmest books I have, but it is really well written on city and land structure. I don't use the written cities there, but I take it as a pattern to write my own cities. It has enough depth for interesting players, but isn't too complicated. Also, it's great for improvising and writing stories at the Swordcoast, but also gives a lot of freedom for players to travel and explore, which I love as the DM who mainly improvises. It also includes quite a bit of D&D lore, new backgrounds for different worlds and new classes, but is mostly, in my opinion, for people who struggle a little bit with writing or have never written D&D stories before. With Van Richtens Guide to Ravenloft, I haven't quite had a chance yet to use it on its full potential, because we just came out of the Curse of Strahd campaign and I didn't want to hit them again with this creeping horror. But what I love about this is, first of all, the alternative cover is beautiful, and I really like the add-ons that come with this book. It is great for creating a horror vibe, or in general just an eerie and mysterious, kinda creepy feeling, which I will use more specifically and not to the overall campaign, but when we go into Dungeon Crawler or something with more intensity, I will definitely use this and can only recommend it to people who want more of the dark campaign setting. Candlekeep Mysteries has one of the most beautiful covers I have ever seen. It is a great extra for your game if your players are interested in lore and stories and books. It has small adventures, tons of lore, NPCs, dungeons and stories all around, books, and even more books. What I like about this source is that you don't need everything, but you are able to just take one of the mysteries and just throw it at your players to have fun with. It's a great way to distract, help, or prepare your players for what is to come, and also changes the pace of the main stories. It is also perfect for introducing guest players with it, and it holds many mini stories in it. The last 3 books are the Monster Manual, the Player's Handbook, and the Dungeon Master's Guide, which are pretty standard for a DM to have, but are worth mentioning nonetheless. They are not strictly needed, but help you all the time if you intend to DM D&D 5e for the long run. So these are almost unavoidable for your homebrew game or if you are playing a pre-written story. These are the books that I use mainly for creating my world and my campaign, but I know that they are quite pricey and not everyone can or have to afford them to write a great story. There are many free-to-use websites that can help you creating the world that you want to play. DnDspeak.com is a great website for prompts, NPCs, weapons, encounters, and world building. They have different generators for things such as potions or taverns, but also a lot of D100 lists of various themes. For example, unique towns and villages or murder mystery plot hooks. Some of them are really fun to be used in different ways, and all of these are free to use, though I recommend to support them on their Patreon or shop. DnDBeyond is one of the most well-known tools for your D&D table. It is great for various things, but since we're concentrating on world building today, I mainly use it for creating NPCs that need more stats or abilities, such as the secret villain or characters that my players just pick up from the road and take with them to their way to dangerous adventures. The encounter builder on the website really helps with planning encounters, such as boss fights or situations that are more important to your world, so you can fully concentrate on what is happening at your table. You can create them with the enemies or creatures that are free to use or that you unlock by buying, and it lets you add your players to it to keep track of the fight while you are playing at the table. I don't use it for building itself, but to let me concentrate on the events that are more story heavy, even while a fight is occurring. Worldanvil is one big website. Even with their free-to-use option, you can create many categories, timelines, folders for NPCs, manuscripts and secrets. When I tried the website out, the most interesting part to me was the interactive map that lets you pinpoint a city or a region on your map, write down everything the players know about that place and add secret DM notes, and then you can send this link to your players to look into everything they learned in your campaign yet. I'll be honest, I was quite overwhelmed at first, but I can recommend this website for dedicated DMs who want to go the extra mile and love to work on world details. The last website is really dear to my heart. Fantasynamegenerator. How many times has this website saved me my last brain cells? Over the years, the website got so many additional name categories that you can find almost everything that you desire. All of my cities, ocean, landscape, and way too complicated elven names come from this website. It is all free to use. Of course, donating is possible and encouraged, but it's an understatement to say that names become a bit of a problem in a city of 300 dwarves. Big shout out and thank you for this website's existing. And the last thing I call the unknown tool. The tools that we forget many times are our own interests. Why not create a setting from something you already enjoy? If it's from books, movies, or games, it's easier to create a setting you already have a feeling for. If it's the Ikemo dynasty in my campaign that has similar looks to Liyue from Genshin Impact, or the soundtrack of Breath of the Wild that is playing in the background as your players wander through the wide open grassland as they're trying to save the princess of the neighbor city. If you're really cunning, incorporate themes your players love and watch them light up as they notice the similarities from that mysterious NPC with their favorite movie character. Why not have a moving castle with a wizard inside, where the entrance door decides where you go next? There is no rule that says reimagining existing stories into your campaign is forbidden. You build this world for you and your players to explore and enjoy, and who says to add these things where you already do that isn't allowed? But in the end, what tools you are using to make your campaign a great one is up to you. You as a DM already put so much thought into researching and writing these stories who are waiting to be told that no matter what you use, they will be great. You taking up the initiative to create a story for your friends to enjoy is already an accomplishment on itself. And to quote one of the best DMs out there are unlimited stories to be told, and just as many storytellers to tell them. So start creating, start writing, and thank you for watching.